Here we go. So, welcome to our talk on menopause, looking at menopause as a fresh start or second spring or a new space that we emerge into. Because every time we do one of these talks, we're like, what should we talk about? What's the focus? And I said, well, really, it is the first day of spring, actually yesterday. And officially called Imbolc in the Celtic calendar. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, but welcome to all of you. And I'm Caroline Gaskin, and this is my colleague Fiona Eady.
Hi, everybody. And this is our fifth talk we've had in this series. So it's nice that, so there's a lot, we're seeing lots of names of people coming back. I think this is turning into a little like community. People definitely, even if you're not here live tonight, we had, about 100 sign-ups. So we know that I'm really excited there's kind of, an audience for this and a group of women that want to talk about natural menopause and have menopause framed in a different way than we're always having it framed to us. So we're framing it in a positive light. Well, that's what we're hoping for. And yeah, great. So thank you so much for coming, and thank you for everyone who's watching the recording as well, because we'll send that out.
Yeah, thank you so much. Because it really, I often say this, sometimes I feel like my work is done, I've had a real kind of breakthrough and something great's happened for someone or group of women. And I think, okay, what's my next step? And then something will call me back and say, no, there's still a lot of work to do in this space that, women, everybody is going to go through this, whether you're supporting a woman, whether you are the woman, whether it's your mum, whether it's your sister, your friends, we're all going to experience this huge transition that we as humans make that other creatures don't, and there's a lot of messaging in there, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a time where you can kind of step over the threshold or you can kind of fall off a precipice. And I think the way it's portrayed to us is that it's this huge, terrible fall instead of actually, it being a positive step forward, a transformation, an aliveness to new energies and new possibilities, which I think is where it ties into Imbolc.
Yeah.
Into this idea of new beginnings, of spring. I've seen the daffodils, like the green stems are coming out. It's nearly happening. Things are starting to come back after winter and the darkness and being inner. We get this kind of this sort of stirring of, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to join? Who am I going to hang out with? Planning a few things. I can really feel it. So yeah, it's so nice and so much lighter. Oh, and
It's so much lighter. And the other thing that I think does happen in this time is that we go forward, but we're conscious we're really not going to put away, certainly in the northern hemisphere and certainly in England, we're not going to put away our scarves, our coats, etc., that we might be going back into that. And there is a lot of toing and froing in menopause, isn't there? So in that sense, it really is like spring. You emerge, it's a sunny day, you think, hey, this isn't too bad, and then you have a kind of what feels like a bit of a setback, and something will throw you, and you might feel despondent at that, or suddenly a lack of confidence comes in, or suddenly oh my goodness, why am I having this heavy period? And we're kind of dragged back to those kind of sometimes heavy feelings that we associate with darkness, dullness, winter, difficult times, and in fact, Imbolc is the day which is literally halfway between the winter solstice and the spring equinox, and it was yesterday. And it's the day when there's a quickening, and it literally means it's this halfway point, but the word Imbolc literally means in the belly, that something is stirring in the belly of the earth, and something is stirring within us about throwing off those winter weeds and moving into the spring, that there is a kind of a quickening, and what does that mean at menopause? And certainly one of the things I wrote, which I put into a little a Canva square, was when I started menopause, all these panicky thoughts came up. What was I letting go of? What did it mean to let go of what I perceived to be youthfulness? And in fact, 10 years the other side of menopause, I've got good energy, I'm strong, I'm fit. I'm like, oh, well, that's not what I was told, as Fiona said earlier, that's not what I was told about menopause.
Yeah, I think there's just so much unease. You know, it's like when you're in your 20s and you think about your 40th birthday and how old you're going to be. Then you get to your 40th and you're like, oh, that was brilliant. I'm so young. I'm like, 40 years young. You feel about 22 when you're 40. And it's the same with menopause. It's this looming uneasy feeling that you're getting closer and closer to. And looking around for role models, I found really difficult because your society's kind of doesn't show us them. I think
No.
in the world of health, we're really lucky because we have these like vibrant, vibrant like 80-year-old women speaking incredible truths and wisdom. But outside the world of health, you're kind of like, what's going on? Where's who do I look
Yeah,
to?
you're being
And
retired, if we look at other industries, entertainment, teaching, all of those things that are kind of leading industries, and definitely not in natural health is not something that most people choose, when it comes down to it. So we are in quite a kind of unique space at the moment. And hopefully that is changing, but we mustn't forget that we're actually speaking to quite a small audience here. The vast majority of women are feeling a dragging in the belly and not a quickening of some kind of change, an opportunity to let go of things which no longer serve us, and I did feel in menopause that, when the Chinese talk about it as second spring, it's taken me a long time to see that, because I did feel quite autumnal, and that could feel a bit sad, that I was saying goodbye to parts of me, my life that I'd loved, nurturing, mothering, directly feeding children. And it took a while to realize that I was gathering the fruits of my life, which included, my children, my work, and aspects of all of those places of nurture, and repurposing those. And the idea of legacy began to take hold. Is what was I going to give, and I had a sudden urge, really strong actually, to, as a kind of memory dump, that I needed to get this knowledge that I have inside me about natural health out there. So I started to do courses and workshops because I saw that people needed what I'd been given by others, and I was repurposing it, and I'm still doing that. And that legacy of body of work, I know that others will take and take on. So what is it that is happening to us at this time? And that can feel a bit panicky at first, but I wanted to leave something useful for others. I wanted to give back. And I realized that I had a lot of older women in my practice that I just thought were absolutely fabulous. They were doing things which were often built on compassion. They were starting something new and exciting in their 70s, post menopause. And one was starting a school in the wake of the Asian tsunami, in 2004. And she just became this kind of powerhouse in Henley on Thames, and gathered, that's quite a rich area of the country, gathered money and created this school. And then another client, who I spent quite a lot of time working with, she would take this team of surgeons to Africa to fix heart issues, cleft palate, and eye problems, all of which there's no mechanism to solve in Africa. And I was just like, wow, this is what it means, to leave behind some of the things about mothering, which are necessarily a lot of giving, um, to a small group of people, your family, your workplace, whatever, and actually go, there's an adventuring in here as well. It's really quite inspiring.
yeah, no, they sound amazing.
Yeah.
I think that thing of what does it look like for each of us? So there's
Mm.
that idea that the very active part that you were just talking about. I think there's also your own developing the inner life. So do you want to pursue more creative pursuits? Have you got that book to write,
Mm-hmm.
the art to follow? Or do you want to become a center of influence in your family? Do you want to be the
Yeah.
grounding that they all need? Or do you want to be an influence, maybe not so much in like driving business forward, but more in on the board, like guiding, more
Yeah.
on mentoring, more, so it fits more with your life energy and the wisdom and knowledge you've built up, and probably brings in, like really good money as well if you're in that kind of business position. But we've all got different paths open to us, and maybe we all want bits of all of them, but there's that inner and the outer. And but you get to be, I read a really good quote on this, but actually you get to be your a choice maker. So instead of being the supporting actor in everyone else's lives, you make your own choices. But think of all the choices that have been thrust on you, right from the university back to your GCSEs, like, how much did your parents influence those, your marriages, how much of those were other people's influences and conditioning. And then you get this opportunity to step into actually what you want. And, and of course, that's not portrayed in the media. That's kind of like really powerful.
Exactly. I think
You
that can
get
be
to
quite
choose your own life.
scary.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of conversation again, a kind of bit of a back and forth about defining oneself and refining that. That there's there's an opportunity to kind of polish up your act in some ways, as well as look at something fresh. And I think that is really, as you say, quite powerful. A lot of stuff has happened which is other people put on to us, and this is really an opportunity. And so the other thing about in bulk as a time is that I tend to, at this time of year, conscious of the light, like you said, I've literally ordered some candles today without kind of realizing it. I was writing a few notes for this, and we'll talk about the goddess of this time is Bridget. um Brigid. She's got loads of names. She's a Celtic goddess originally, who's kind of bridged into a saint. But Brigid, Bridie, Brie, Brigida, she's actually the root, or one of the roots of the name Britain. And she literally means fiery one, bright arrow. The light is coming. It also means high one or exalted one who's lit by the light of the new year coming, but also is a guiding light to show others the way. So she could be a fire goddess, and it felt suddenly I'd ordered some candles from Star Child, and I was like, how appropriate. And you said something about candles as well today.
It's also Candlemas. So Candlemas is,
Yes.
so in the Christian
Yeah.
calendar,
Yeah.
is a festival linked to renewal, hope, and purification. So that's a lot of the themes of In Bulk as well. I mean, obviously, as we know, all these things are layered on top of each other.
Yeah.
So Candlemas, I think I used to actually make candles on Candlemas because my son used to do it at school, and then I used to want to do it at home as well because it's really nice. So that thing of kind of welcoming this new light in and thanking the candles that have seen you through winter and then stocking up again. Yeah, so I know mine's mate is doing, look, it's a bit funny on Zoom, but it's really pretty. And I'd like to say it's a beeswax candle, not a scented candle, because those can often contain xenoestrogens, not a paraffin candle, because you're basically breathing in petrol fumes. So, find your clean candles. I think soy is another good clean one if you're vegan. Candle
I was
note.
thinking actually, as there's a really good note on candle, because I was listening to something which we echo as part of the natural menopause course. We do a whole session on what's around your home, and I was listening to a podcast recently about just that, and it's good time of year to check in with, to sort, to kind of say, I'm not going to use that anymore, I'm going to use this. We're just moving into that time of potentially spring cleaning, dusting in the corners, and making decisions about what we're going to have in the house going forward. So it's a really nice time of year to kind of brush up on those sort of things, I think.
Yeah, and there's a
And we
physical.
just, yeah, I was just going to really quickly say we've got, which I'll put a link to in this, is the last talk we did was actually about detox, wasn't it?
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
was a really good one on, and also how much you can detoxing. It doesn't have to be an expensive process. It's really
Mm,
removing. It's really
yeah.
removing and decluttering.
Yeah.
But I was just going to say on top of, when you inspired me there on decluttering. So there's the purification aspect of in bulk and the clearing out, and there's also the decluttering of your life. So
Yeah.
over winter, you may well have noticed that stuff has really annoyed you, that you've been really sensitive to other people pushing your boundaries, to, I'm watching too much telly, I don't want to scroll anymore. You've been getting pretty strong messages over winter around what is no longer serving you. So this is an opportunity as the light's getting a bit better, because you're like, what am I going to do to change this? Rather than just sitting on it till next winter when when it all comes back up again and you're in the house and it's dark at 4 in the Northern Hemisphere anyway, like, what are you going to do about it? And I think that's what's so great about this time of year, is there's this energy of change. So one of the things I'm going to do, well, I've actually been doing is, so lighting a candle. I'd love everyone to do this after tonight's talk. Light a candle, get out a pen and a bit of paper, and just free journal around what your intentions for this season are. And it doesn't have to be, you know, the goals, but more the sense you want to have. I want to feel peaceful. I want to feel powerful. I want to pursue my love of dance, you know, pretty vague, but just see where it goes. And then that's going to give you a lovely surge of progesterone right before bed tonight. It's going to you're going to go to sleep with a kind of really nice positive energy, and it'll just percolate through in these coming months as we move towards spring. And it'd be really interesting to see where it's got to by the time we get to, to the spring equinox. So
yeah, definitely love it. And I think, you know, one of my things that I wrote at the winter solstice was that I had some ideas about work. You know, I want to get published, bringing through a podcast. It all began with P, and then, but personally was play and being in partnership, being in a place of, you know, comfort with others and fun. And I managed to mix together, inadvertently, actually, two of my flower essences. I thought they were the same one, and I poured the play one, which is little flannel flower, into the bottle of pink flannel flower, which is about the heart, and very heart-centered remedy. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take that, you know, and so where in one's life, you know, and you might focus on just one thing, where in one's life does one have playfulness, and you know, for instance, or where do I feel that I have, you know, comfort. You know, one of the things also about we've talked about the flame and the fieriness of the goddess of Brigida, you know, wherever we come from, the name is there. It's in so many different languages for this time of year, as a goddess. And is fire is obviously warmth, you know, and we've sought the fire through the winter, and we use the fire for purification. We use it to pass the animals through the fire at this time of year, so that all the bugs that they've acquired over the winter, you know, get freed from their coats. And so there's also an aspect about fire which is warmth, you know, comfort. There's light and there's comfort. And so it might be, where do I have comfort in my life? Where do I need to do that, to do something about that? You know, and a friend came around today, someone I know for years, and she trained with me years in homeopathy, and she called by, and she gave me this. She had this funny cushion with her, which is a pair of pink velvet lips. And I was like, that's really cute. And she said, do you want it? And I was like, yeah, I would really go with my kitchen, you know. So I'm going to see those every year, every day in my kitchen, rather, and laugh about them and be called back to, you know, this, you know, she's somebody who wears bright lipstick, and I can't think of her without thinking of her lipstick. So, you know, just sometimes there's something that we latch onto that is part of the kind of ritual reminder, and candles can be that, writing can be that, you know, setting time and intention to create ritual. And one of the other things I wrote, which I try to do most days, but certainly we talk about a lot, is dry skin brushing. And at this time of year, that is a really great thing to do before the shower. We talked about it as part of detox, but it's also very stimulatory. So it's stimulating our body to work efficiently. So we brush the skin with a dry natural bristle brush before a shower or a bath. And at this time of year, we might be thinking about literally, you know, cleansing, clearing, letting go, of winter weight. You know, it stimulates the leptin receptor cells under the skin, which help us manage weight. Might go to bed, you know, half an hour earlier, because that will help prime other hormones, which mean that we can let go of any winter weight that we've gained. You know, there's so many kind of little things that can come out of taking some time and attention, I think, at this time of year.
yeah, I think my sort of in bulk writing has been a lot about relationships, because what I
Mm,
found was in early peri, I became quite socially sensitive and I didn't really want to, having been
mm, mm,
extroverted all of my life. And this time coincided a lot time-wise with COVID. So I, got locked down and then got stuck in a way.
mm,
And it's quite interesting now as I move into the later stages of peri that I'm really like, oh, where are those friends? Where are those friendships?
mm,
I'm soon to get married to an Italian, and I don't speak Italian. So how do I develop better relationships with these
mm,
in-laws? I'm going to learn Italian. So the idea that I was writing around was relationships, but what it actually led me to was, right, I need to learn Italian. I need to go back to dance class, like those actual sort of structured, the actual to-dos sort of fell
mm,
out of it. But what the real thing was like, yeah, my real missing has been relationships. And I
mm,
think there is that kind of thing in peri of the turning inwards can be a bit of a jolt for
mm,
us. You think, oh
mm.
God, is this going to be me forever? I don't want to be around people. I get really upset. I get really triggered and sensitive. And then it's so lovely to feel like I want to get out there. And just as,
Mm.
everything's coming to life again as well. So I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, I went through a stage where definitely had more progesterone going on because I literally wanted to wear um, much more feminine clothes. You know, progesterone is the kind of the hormone that helps us carry the baby, gives clarity of thought, all sorts of wonderful things about progesterone. You know, hair's shinier, skin tends to be better when we've got kind of progesterone rich sense in our body. And it was just really interesting to want to wear different colors and be much more feminine because I'm quite a tomboy. I wear jeans most of the time, and that was quite interesting to kind of rebalance my wardrobe because my hormones were changing.
And I think what we see in the course as well is that by the time people have gone through this 6 week, we get to watch this 6 week
Mm,
transformation
mm,
happening. There's a lot of we run the natural menopause course. It's a 6 week course, and there's a WhatsApp group, and we have live check-ins every week as well with the
mm,
small group of women. And what we see, as well as what people report in the feedback, is that it starts off in this kind of everybody, a lot of anxiety, a lot of poor sleep, a lot of confusion. And then even in 6 weeks, you see this kind of empowerment, kind of, I've got this. I know what my
mm,
body's doing. I'm
mm,
not overwhelmed by these symptoms anymore. I understand them and I know what I need to do. And then at the end of it, there's the kind of chat around, we were chatting around, I think, I'd gone surfing and I was talking about having taken up surfing in my 50s and how much I'd always wanted to do that, and it'd been a bit of a stirring inside me, and I'd followed it through. And then everybody started talking about what they were doing, and
mm,
even through the duration of this course, people had moved from things being a bit of an idea of something that they'd quite like to like, no, I'm going out there and I'm going to record this myself
mm-hmm,
singing, or I'm going
mm-hmm,
to reform this rock band. There was a lot around music. It was really interesting that when you bring women together, we can really, like, everyone sort of feeds off each other's vibe, and there's a real
mm,
fun and power in it,
mm.
um, which does segue us onto the course actually
Yeah,
as well.
it's true. It's true. It does because I think what emerges is a real sense of um, the sense of joy that comes through. There's a sense of supporting each other in the journey, which is really quite powerful and is not something that I would say I experience on every course that I do at all. Um, and I mean, we get amazing feedback, don't we?
Yeah, it's been, so we've done the course, we've done two lots of the course so far. So we've started the course last year in July, and we've had two cohorts of women that we've taken through it. And what we did was we pulled together all of our knowledge really around what works best at menopause, and we kind of distilled that down to these 6 pillars of health. And what we do is each week we tackle a different pillar and we all work together, and Caroline and I do everything along with everyone else because everything always needs repeating and resetting in. And we try, by what we're aiming for by the end of the course is that the women leave with a plan of what they're going to do over their menopause, and that those behaviors and that structure are not just for menopause, but really how to live for the rest of our lives, how to live well, how to nourish ourselves well, how to get enough light, how to get enough sleep, how to bring enough joy into our lives in your own individual way. And then we support that with nutritional supplements, lifestyle hacks, and homeopathic remedies. And you're actually have made us a special remedy as well for this.
Yes, yeah. So for this session, what we thought we'd do, because quite often we have, a kind of some kind of incentive around joining the course, and I've got a sleep combination that I have used for years in my practice, and I would get people as a standalone homeopathic remedy, just saying, "Oh, can I have some more of your sleep combo?" But you called it, which I thought was really sweet, Sleep Supreme, didn't you?
Yeah,
So
Caroline,
it's, yeah, Caroline Sleep Supreme remedy. So if you join the course in the next, how long did we say? Till
till
Friday?
Thursday.
Yeah,
I think, yeah.
Thursday
We
or
did Thursday at
Friday.
midnight, which is
Yes. Yeah, Thursday at midnight. Then you'll get an additional remedy in with your remedies. So there are course remedies that of the first 3 weeks of the course, which are around cleansing, detox, blood sugar balance, mineralization. And then we move into the second part of the course where we've done quite a lot together, and we journey into looking a little bit more at the female focused remedies. So support for your part of the journey, wherever that is, because obviously we get women at all stages of menopause on the course. And I should say, actually, we also get women who often get asked this, who've had surgical menopause. So they've had some kind of womb surgery. We've had women on the course who've had breast cancer in recovery, so they're on medication around that. Can I do the course? Can I take the remedies alongside? And that's the joy of a lot of what we're working with is absolutely fine alongside other health choices that you're making. And of course, we get women who come on the course who are seeing a homeopath, and so they say, is it okay to take these remedies? And we would say, happy to have a chat about that and to let you know what remedies are on the course. And then additionally for this session, it's a sleep combination that I'm going to add to anyone who signs up in the next few days. So as I say, it's something I've been using for a long time. Obviously, I'll let you know how to take it. But one of the things that I added to it is a homeopathic remedy called Califos. And Califos is interesting because it's a remedy about grounding, about reconnecting with the earth, about calming the nervous system, about dropping anxiety. And sometimes those surges of anxiety come up. And so, with sleep, we're asking, what is it that's preventing sleep? When is sleep a problem? Beginning of the night, during the night, towards morning, I wake and then can't get back to sleep. What is the issue around sleep? And so combination remedy can be a really great solution. So yeah, anything else that I should say about that?
I think we should just probably chat a little bit about the course. Have you got the
Sure. No, just meant about the sleep remedy.
remedy? So I know there's
Yeah.
some valerian in it, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Do you like valerian particularly?
I really do. For me, I found
Mhm.
that it takes it. So when you take it as a sleep remedy, what it does is it obviously it's sort of pulling down your cortisol levels overnight and it's giving you better sleep. But in so doing, it just means that when you wake up in the morning, your anxiety is, if you're suffering from early menopause anxiety, which many women do, it's your anxiety levels have really dropped and it kind of holds you all through the day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love about valerian is that it's it's often given as a sleep remedy, but it has a much bigger
Yeah.
action. Wow.
It's true, actually. I often say to take it at the beginning of the day as well. I like valerian. So there's other herbs as well I use in a similar way. I'm just going to screen share actually from
I've just put a link to the course in the
oh,
chat.
brilliant. Yeah, great. Let me just do this from the beginning. So we just wanted to talk a bit, obviously, about the course. So what we've got is 6 live group coaching webinars with us, and then historically what we've done so far is we've had the informational part of that as part of these live group coaching webinars. This course, what we're going to do is we've pre-recorded the videos, so you get to watch them before the session, so you can come to the sessions with all your questions and a kind of going over and a just embedding that knowledge and information, rather than hearing it fresh for the first time in the live group coaching space and going away with a lot of questions. What we're doing this time is letting you have those first, and then come to the live sessions with us, and have the opportunity to really explore those. And then beyond those sessions, we have a WhatsApp group, which is very much for daily support and community. And we actually get, with those WhatsApp groups are still live from our June and September 2024 courses, and we still get conversation in those. Just we need to be reminded of these things. As I said, I'm 10 years post-menopause. I need reminding sometimes. Go and have an Epsom salt bath. Don't forget to eat something in the morning. Otherwise you'll feel a bit rangy by midday. These sort of things we need to remind ourselves of, we need to revisit. So that's why we created the course, so that we can get into the practice of visiting what it is that we need and reminding ourselves, and allowing that to embed. And I've been working with menopause for years and years, so these are things that to me are proven, simple, effective, and actually not big cost items as well. So we've really honed this idea of nutritional supplements. What's fundamental? I get asked all the time, I'm sure you're the same, Fiona, is this any good for menopause? I'm like, well, it might be for some women.
I know that,
you know
and I think people think there's just going to be one supplement. You're going to take this one supplement that's called like Meno Boost or something, and that's going to be it. And menopause is, how bad or how good our menopause is a reflection of where we've been. You look back, your menopause is an opportunity to change your entire health based on the symptoms that are popping up. So what your symptoms are, each need to be addressed, and every woman has different symptoms, and you may well need to address your blood sugar, which may have been something that's been bubbling away in the background for years and that you've been ignoring because you could push through, you could push past it, you could go without eating for 5 hours and then eat, a big, like 3 Tesco donuts or something, and you'd be fine. But when you get to menopause, like your body is not going to let you do that. You go without eating, you're going to have hot flashes at 3 a.m.
and you eat a sugary donut, you're going to be awake at 3 a.m.
So looking for this sort of bullet, this golden bullet, is that the right word, at menopause, which of course kind of HRT is, but with HRT you lose the opportunity to basically sort of have this massive health revamp, a reset, that's going to serve you so well for the next 30 years. And I have heard men say that they wish they had menopause, because otherwise they don't have that chance to reboot, to reset, to recalibrate, whereas we really have this opportunity. And each time you do it, each time you heal one of those symptoms, the energy and the wellness, the true wellness that you achieve is so empowering. Each time you sort of peel off like that symptom, you're like, yay. And you become more with that. It's not just your health that changes, you become more yourself than you've ever been. So I can't remember what we were talking about. Just went off. I think
the other thing about HRT and any medication is that all medication, HRT included, will eventually rob your body of essential nutrients that it needs. And those are also kind of things that we would cover on the course, obviously. But to understand that if we are making health choices that are not completely serving us, they will be utilizing elements that we need. So HRT, for instance, will deplete your iodine. Well, what's the thyroid going to say about that 5 years down the line? what's your anxiety? So many women on HRT in my practice who have come in, and these are bioidenticals as well, so they're much closer to the body's rhythm perhaps than traditional HRT, but they're still suffering massive anxiety and sleep, which might indicate sleep problems, that they might indicate that their B vitamins, for instance, are not what they should be. Lo and behold, what does HRT take from you? You know, so these are things that even if we are making choices, we need to know, you know, if we've been put on something like tamoxifen because of breast cancer, we need to know what the effects of that are and what we can do to put back in, so that we are optimizing our health through our health choices. So yeah, we've said actually some of this already, but while we're on HRT, this is very much a space, you know, sometimes women can't take HRT or they want to taper off HRT. They are taking it and want to optimize their health, or there's some contraindication about other health choices. I think that's really important to state as well. Anything you want to add to that, Fiona? Just going to look at the chat box actually.
No, the chat box was, I made the link work. I think,
great.
did we just go past the results slide, or is that still to come? Because I
No,
want
that is on the bottom of there, the improvement. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what was really amazing. So when we did this course, we did the first one and we did not know how it was going to turn out. We knew that we'd be supporting women and that the remedies we had were great and our advice was great, but the results were really good. What we give at the start and at the end is there are questionnaires to fill in. One's your hormonal past life history, so you can start to gauge, you know, what you're coming in with, and the other one is tracking your menopause symptoms. And I think we've got something like 35 symptoms that we're looking at, and people can be coming in. Someone came in with 27 of those symptoms and left with 4. So
amazing. It's insane,
obviously a lot
of in 6 weeks.
Some people came in with 4 and left with 2. So it can completely be the range of you know, severity is huge as well. But it's everyone goes on their own individual journey through the course, and everybody had you know, saw their symptoms either somewhere between 40 to 90% improvement in their symptoms.
Yeah.
And really, it is down to what you're coming in with. But for me, I think it wasn't just the moving of the physical symptoms, but really the way that people, the main thing that we see 2 weeks in is that anxiety massively improved. And when anxiety improves, you know, that transforms your life. When you're living on that, you know, low grade anxiety, and when that's gone,
it feels like a knife edge, doesn't it? You know, it's a horrible place, and surges of anxiety, which I'd never experienced before like that. Yeah, take you back. It's just like, what was that about? How did that happen? You know, just kind of white walling with fear. You know, it's like, where did that come from? And it might take, you know, we talk about this on the course, but it might take us back to a time in our life when there was fear, and we now can do some work around that to kind of really settle that down. And I think it's interesting, when I looked at this statistic and I was like, 40% doesn't seem very high, and then I reminded myself that could, as you say, be somebody who you know, only came in with 4 symptoms of menopause and left with 2, which is 50% improvement. That's great. And then I reminded myself also that some women didn't start any of the protocols till at least halfway through the course because something else was going on. You know, somebody moved house, somebody changed job. You know, statistics are interesting things, aren't they? But when I did the 3rd session on the first course, and we were talking about balance and we were talking about sleep, and we were talking about what actually happens to your hormones in menopause, and you know, why something like stress arises. And we can't make the hormones that we need. And everybody had encountered some kind of stressor that week. And in the breakout rooms, everybody said, I dealt with that stress in a completely different way. I managed it and came out without a, you know, panic and anxiety. And I was like, wow, we haven't even got to the female hormonal remedies yet. We're working with putting in place really great protocols. It was very powerful. I'm amazed.
Yeah. And I think, and that's, yeah, you're right. The statistics, we don't know who, it's kind of come with us. We've got these protocols, we've got these hacks, we've got these lifestyle tips, and we're encouraging you to try them out. But it's down to each individual how
Mm,
much are they going to body brush every day? Are they really going to, bring
mhm.
their coffee? So it's pre 11 a.m. Are they taking the supplements on time? So everyone's got their own degree depending on how busy they are,
Mhm.
what other stresses they've got in their life. And that's absolutely fine. But to
Yeah.
see that, improvement across the group is absolutely fantastic. And then if you don't have time to implement everything during the course, it's all there in the handbooks, the WhatsApp groups there, and the structures there for you to be able to do it in your own time. So
Mm.
it's sort of coming with us, learning and getting to practice and try everything out, see if what's working for you, what doesn't work for you. And at the end of 6 weeks, you've got a pretty good plan as to, how you're going to flourish for the
Mm.
next 30 or 40 years.
And it's
So,
interesting. It is a journey. There's someone on their February course who's already done the course, who's coming back because she said, "I'm in a different phase now, and I need to revisit some of the stuff." At the time of the first course, she was actually doing quite a lot of traveling, and I was just like, "Wow, that shows me how much value that there is to revisit this space as well." It was, yeah, amazing.
so we've
Um,
got a few places left.
mhm.
We're starting in 2 weeks' time as well. So yes, and we've got a special sign.
Three weeks
3 weeks'
time.
time.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we've got the course does cover a lot. And I think the reason that we want to cover so much is that's the other reason anxiety goes down. When you start realizing what the purpose is, what the sign is behind each symptom, what does a hot flash mean? What are you missing? How can not only how can you manage that, but what is happening in your body? And I think that's why we have these webinars, which are really, they're science-based. We reference things. We are looking not only to Western medicine, but also to TCM, as well as homeopathy, a little bit of herbs and flower essences as well. So we pull together lots of different, information places about menopause. And with that, we're aiming so that you can really understand what is happening at menopause because it has a purpose. The body has this incredible intelligence.
Mm,
So everything has a purpose. And then we start with, first of all, detoxing because the body has to be clean if it's going to be able to absorb. There's no point throwing all these supplements and remedies on if the body can't absorb. And we're also looking at all the chemicals in everyday products. For example, recently, black recycled plastic
mm,
turns out is recycled from leftover electrical waste. And if you think about takeaway, if you buy a ready meal that
mm,
comes in black plastic, this stuff was never designed to come into contact with us and our
mm.
food. So this is continually evolving. And so we evolve the course each time. And then we
It's
look
true.
at
Yeah.
really optimum nourishment,
Mm,
not diet, weight loss coming through optimum nourishment, and yeah, absolutely no restrictive diets as well. And then Caroline, you do work on sleep.
hmm hmm And how
Yep.
to enhance energy and vitality, looking at where we are spending our energy, um, and and maybe making some changes there. One of the things that I'm really, you know, keen on talking about is making a plan for menopause. That you can come back to, address, tweak, and to signpost where it's relevant. To say, well, this would be appropriate for you, but given your symptoms that you've come in with. And that could be anything from physical therapy to time spent out in nature, to seeing an individual on a one-to-one base, having the Dutch test. There could be all sorts of things that we put in there, and it might be, okay, this is my plan, and I've got this that I'm thinking about doing in 6 months' time. And to me, so many courses, it's very, very easy to do a course and A, not really attend to it, and B, not really come away with something which is practical, that I can take forward, and also step by step. 6 weeks is a time where we can establish good habits. There are all these kind of statements about how long it takes for us to establish a good habit. So we're really kind of putting those things in place in this time.
Yeah, so it'd be lovely if anybody's able to join us. And yeah, has anyone got any, also, have we got any questions for tonight? I don't think there's been any.
Let me just have a quick look.
So if anyone's got anything that they want to ask us, and if not, get your candles.
Yes, I'm going to light pale pink candles. They're the only ones I've got left. But I thought I'm going to light those. And a friend gave me those actually. And yeah, just celebrate this time of year coming into something with the potential end of the year. You know, I think it would be very easy to look at the year in a dispirited way. I found also that when I was working with my flower essences, that I was adding light as an essence from the chalice well essences. I was like, that felt so good, you know, to bring in those kind of elements. So definitely light a candle, right? What would you like to see in your life, or what is in your life that is nourishing you?
Yeah, yeah. And also it's a good time to plant some seeds. So we are literally planting, well, not literally, figuratively, planting seeds. What do we want to grow and germinate this spring?
I've literally got some seeds on my kitchen table. The last thing on my list. So I brought these along. So I was thinking about fire. I've made marmalade for in bulk. So that's, you know, all the, you know, marmalade's such an amazing thing to make at this time of year, because you're taking the harvest, you know, the warmth, the sun. And I encourage you to buy these fabulous blood oranges, because they've got far more antioxidants in them. So it's all these little tips, you know, that we bring into the course. But you know, to have something antioxidant rich as your morning, full of the vibrancy of the year, of the sunshine of the year, you know, and to take that through these any dark days that are kind of hanging around now. And of course it's full of seeds, isn't it, you know, to kind of grow. So the last thing on my list, apart from making marmalade, tick that box, tick the box of making some remedies, is some seeds. I've got some catnip to sow.
Minus tomatoes. Yeah, so it's great. I love the theme of tonight's talk. It was really good. So
Thank
thank
you
you,
all for
everybody.
joining us. It's really great to have met you. And yeah, if you've got any questions about the course, just drop us a line as well. Thank you.
Hi,
Thank
everybody.
you. Thank you
Bye.
very much.